I thought you were a good daughter-in-law, but it seems I was wrong. Leave this house and never come back. You're nothing but a parasite. Pack your things and go. Ever since my husband passed away, my mother-in-law Sarah and sister-in-law Catherine have been saying mean things to me. Even though I've been taking care of Sarah, my husband was worried about her until the end. And yet Catherine says bad things about him, and I couldn't help but argue back. If you both feel that way, I understand. I'll leave. When I said that, Sarah and Catherine were happy, but a few months later, they were begging me. The bad luck I wished for them was worse than I thought. My name is Emily. I'm 32 years old and work as a buyer for famous brands. I met my husband Tom through a friend. Tom was kind and calm, just the husband I wanted, so I said yes when he proposed. Tom's parents were independent, so I got along well with them and didn't have any problems with my mother-in-law. Having a caring mother-in-law and practical father-in-law seemed perfect to me. Tom worried about his mom's financial future because she didn't think much about money. He thought it would be fine as long as his dad, who was responsible with money, was healthy. Tom also had an older sister, Catherine, who was divorced and lived alone. He figured she'd take care of their parents later on. But Tom didn't fully trust Catherine. I'm worried about giving our family money matters to Catherine. Why? There were problems before. I didn't think much about Catherine's past then, but later, Tom's worries turned out to be true. After I married Tom and had a few peaceful years, his dad got sicker and died. Since Sarah always depended on her husband, she was devastated. It's tough now, Sarah, but let's try to move on. I've always let my husband handle everything. I don't know how to do it alone. Tom was worried about his mom living alone, and I share his concern. As our son, he must have been really stressed about it. Then, one night, he came to me with an idea. Emily, what if my mom comes to live with us? It was unexpected, but I had a feeling he might suggest this someday. But what about Catherine? What about her? Shouldn't she, as the daughter, take care of mom instead of us? I want to step up and take dad's place, looking after mom. She's not great with money, so I'll handle her finances too. Can't we ask Catherine to do that? No, that won't work. It was rare for Tom to firmly say no to my idea. I want to make sure dad's money is well taken care of, so mom won't struggle later on. Even though he felt bad about asking me to live together, Tom was determined to handle dad's inheritance and savings. It's okay. I think we'll all be happy living together with your mom. I'm genuinely worried about her being alone too. Oh, Emily, thank you so much. And so we started our new life as a family of 3 in Sarah's house. Just like she promised, Sarah left everything for her husband to handle, from bank accounts to bills and credit cards. She didn't really understand any of it. Tom managed her money separately from ours and decided to give her a monthly allowance for her expenses. Whenever Sarah was tempted by dodgy salespeople or pressured to buy expensive stuff by friends, it was Tom's job to guide her. If he didn't, she might end up with a lot of debt because she was careless with money. By taking on the role of her husband, Tom made his mom happy. Seeing her happier also made Tom feel better. Sarah helped out with the household chores since I was working, and everything was going smoothly. But our peaceful life came to an abrupt halt. Tom collapsed at work. He had the same illness as his dad and might have pushed himself too hard during a busy time, ending up in the hospital. Sarah and I visited him almost every day, but Tom didn't seem to be getting better. Emily, I need to talk to you about what happens after I'm gone. Don't say that. Let's focus on getting you better so we can go back to living with your mom, just like before. I knew I might get sick like dad, so I'm prepared. But there's one thing I need you to do for me regarding mom. Trying to hold back tears, I listened closely to my husband's last request. A few weeks later, Tom passed away. Dealing with telling relatives, sorting things out with his job, and planning the funeral kept me busy and distracted from the grief. Once everything was settled, I remembered what Tom had asked of me. There was no time to mourn now. I had to step into Tom's shoes and take care of my mother-in-law. I'm sorry I've been occupied lately, Sarah. From now on, I'll handle the money matters instead of Tom. Don't worry, I'll make sure we have enough for our monthly expenses. Emily, are you still going to stay with me now that Tom is gone? Absolutely. Tom always told me to take care of you. Let's keep supporting each other. I understand. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she spoke. I'm sorry for putting the burden of finances on you while you're already busy. Don't worry, keeping busy helps me cope, so it's actually helpful. But Catherine didn't seem happy about me living with her mom. When she found out I was not only staying but also handling the money, she burst into the house in anger. Why is Emily, an outsider, still here after Tom's gone? And why is she in charge of the money? Doesn't that seem strange to you? Before Tom passed away, he asked me to take care of Sarah and handle the finances. Are you just saying that conveniently? No, it's what Tom wanted. Is there some hidden reason behind this? And are you using Tom's name to your advantage? Catherine wasn't convinced, but she backed off for the time being. However, the next week she came back furious. Emily, what do you think you're doing? I saw everything. What are you talking about? You're having an affair, aren't you? An affair? I saw you going into a men's store and dining at a fancy restaurant with a man. Are you using Tom's money on your lover? That's not true. I haven't spent any money like that on someone else. Your excuses won't cut it. It hasn't been long since Tom passed away, and you're already moving on to someone new. Have you no shame? Mother, don't you agree? Influenced by Catherine's words, Sarah started to doubt me too. Emily, is it true? No, that's not what happened. I'm just following Tom's wishes, I tried to explain, but Catherine interrupted me. How dare you bring up Tom's name after cheating on him? How could you sink so low? I fell silent, feeling the cold stares from both Catherine and Sarah. Then Sarah spoke up. I used to think you were a good daughter-in-law, but I was wrong. I never want to see you again. Leave, Catherine chimed in triumphantly. That's right, parasites like you don't belong here. Determined not to let Tom's wishes go to waste, I endured it all. With that resolve, I remained silent. But Sarah and Catherine didn't stop there. They continued to hurl hurtful words at me. Poor Tom, picking someone like you. He was always so easily fooled, you know. Maybe he tricked you into thinking he'd handle the money, but actually used Mom's money for himself. To tarnish Tom's memory, especially when he cared so much about his mom, is unforgivable to me. I could handle them saying bad things about me, but I can't stand them insulting my late husband. I'm sorry, Tom, for not keeping our promise. I silently apologized to him as I turned to Sarah and Catherine. I understand. I'll leave like you both want. Hearing my words, the two exchanged looks and grinned. Finally seeing reason, huh? Leave the bank book here when you go. Sure. I handed over the bank book containing Sarah's living expenses and her husband's inheritance, then left the house. But 3 months later, I got a call from Sarah, whom I had distanced myself from. Emily, they're saying I can't pay my card bill. Why? What's happening? Maybe you spent too much and don't have enough left. You should check your balance using your bank book. Balance? How do I do that? It seems Sarah hadn't changed. She was still careless about money even after I left. As I thought this, Sarah started yelling at me angrily. This never happened when you were here. Suddenly after you left, the money's gone. You must have stolen it. I can't believe this. Come here right now. Furious, Sarah hung up the phone. Feeling heavy-hearted, I reluctantly went to her house. When I arrived, both Sarah and Catherine were waiting for me. Ignoring Sarah's anger, I accessed her online banking, checked the balance, and showed it to her. Here's the transaction history for this account. As you can see, while I was managing it, the balance never went negative. Do you understand why? Because I was saving money. It's hard to believe that you, who aren't good with money, would suddenly start saving. Actually, the balance stayed positive because I was depositing $1,500 every month for living expenses. Living expenses? I didn't know about that. Tom and I did it while he was alive. We decided to use our money to cover your expenses, so your savings wouldn't go down. Really? Tom did that? Yes, even after he passed away, I kept doing it with $1,500 from my own salary, but when you asked me to leave, I stopped. Then I continued, showing Sarah the transaction details. Let's see the transactions after I left. There are more than $1,500 being taken out, suggesting big expenses. I didn't change my spending habits. Maybe Catherine used it. With that, I shifted the conversation to Catherine. Looking at the details, there were card payments at fancy stores and restaurants. I can't picture Sarah spending money at those places. Catherine, do you have any clue? It wasn't me, but I can't think of anyone else who might have used it but you. Could it be you? Did you secretly use a family card or something? I've seen you at those shops and restaurants before. Even now, you're still using mom's money. How low can you go? Can you just stop? I was there for work. The meals were for a meeting with a shop owner. Just because I say it's for work, you think you can't trust me. Fine, let's confirm it right now. I immediately called the shop owner. Thank you for always helping us out. Yes, it was last Friday, and the item was. Well, I was checking some details on the phone. Catherine just stared blankly. Thank you. Can you include that as well? Oh, I see. After ending the call and checking my email, I showed Catherine and Sarah the attached photo. It showed Catherine shopping at the store. What's this? Catherine looked shocked as she saw the photo. It seems the security camera caught you, Catherine, buying these luxury items. When I spoke to the shop owner, they confirmed it right away. I'm pretty sure the person in this photo is you. Don't you agree? Catherine was speechless. The shop owner also mentioned that items matching the ones you bought have been showing up at pawn shops lately. The dates and items match the ones when you used the card, right? Catherine's voice shook, and she seemed confused. Sarah, looking puzzled, asked Catherine, but why go through all this trouble? Buying something and then selling it to a pawn shop right away. Since Catherine didn't seem willing to answer, I spoke up. She probably needed cash quickly. If she took it straight from the bank account, it would have been noticed right away. So you tried to frame me by shopping at my workplace, making it look like I was the one spending money, didn't you? Catherine couldn't defend herself and stayed silent. Meanwhile, Sarah seemed to have more questions and kept pressing Catherine. Catherine, why do you need so much money? Well, I had debts to repay, Catherine confessed quietly. But I added more to her confession. You didn't tell Sarah about it, did you? Do you know why Catherine got divorced? It was because of her debts. Tom often mentioned how troubled he was because Catherine kept asking to borrow money. This has been going on since before Catherine got married. Even after she got married, Tom complained that Catherine's spending habits hadn't changed. You had debts. Sarah then remembered something. The money your father left you, Catherine. I gave you a bank book with the inheritance in it, didn't I? Don't tell me even that money. At Sarah's request, I checked the balance of the bank account where the inheritance was kept. Sarah, the bank account is completely empty. What? Completely empty. But a few days after I left the house, all the money was taken out of the account. No, this can't be. Sarah collapsed to her knees, yelling at Catherine in anger. What's the problem? I had to meet my repayment deadline. My father would have let me, his daughter, use the inheritance however I wanted. I can't believe Sarah is so stunned. It seems Tom was right all along. He always said letting Catherine handle money was risky. He probably saw this coming. Sarah gave Catherine a stern look. That money wasn't just for me, you know. You got your share of the inheritance, right? Who uses someone else's money? You're the one taking advantage of this house. Leave. We're done, Mom. Wait, didn't we agree that I would live here in Emily's place after she left? If I stay with someone like you, I'll end up in debt too. I expect you to return every cent of your father's inheritance. With those words, Sarah forcefully kicked Catherine out of the house. However, I'm unsure if it was the right outcome. Since then, we've lost all contact with Catherine, and Sarah never got back any of the misused inheritance. If she still had it, Sarah could have lived comfortably in her old age. But now, she lives in poverty and loneliness. On the other hand, even though Catherine used the inheritance to pay off her debts, her spending habits didn't change, and she's accumulated even more debt. Without money to repay her debts, she keeps moving to avoid her loan sharks. Only now do I truly feel the weight of Tom's passing. Though things turned out differently from Tom's last wish, I believe I haven't done anything wrong. Tom wanted me to prioritize my happiness above all else. Living with Sarah and Catherine would have gone against Tom's wishes for our well-being. I believe he would understand. From now on, with memories of Tom in my heart, I'll take a new step forward.
At 26 years old, the family that had abandoned me 16 years ago suddenly reappeared in my life. This unexpected reunion sparked a series of emotions and reactions that made me question my own identity, as if I was a different person entirely. As the eldest daughter, I grew up in a seemingly happy family with two siblings, one 3 years younger and the other 5 years my junior. We shared typical family experiences, cooking meals together, watching movies, and playing games. We were close-knit until my father lost his job when I was 9. Blamed for things he hadn't done, he was unfairly dismissed, leaving my mother, who was working in a school, struggling to provide for us all. They decided it would be best if I lived with my grandparents until they were back on their feet. Initially, the idea seemed reasonable, and I embraced the change. That summer, I stayed at my grandparents' farm, caring for animals and enjoying the countryside. Little did I know, this temporary separation would turn into a lifelong ordeal. When school was set to resume, my parents assured me they were working on arranging a new home. I stayed a few extra days with my grandparents, waiting for their call. However, the promised days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Every attempt to contact my parents was met with unanswered calls and empty promises. I grew frustrated and desperate for answers. I asked my grandparents if they knew anything, but they were as clueless as I was. Seeking help, I filed a missing persons report, but my grandparents dismissed it as mere drama, grounding me for my efforts. Feeling abandoned and betrayed, I pleaded with my grandparents to provide me with an education. They enrolled me in a local public school, but adjusting to the new environment took time. Despite the challenges, I focused on my studies, determined to escape my grandparents' farm and find my parents. The lack of concern from those around me intensified my resolve. Everything changed when I overheard a conversation between my grandmother and my mother on the phone. The hushed tones in the kitchen revealed the truth. My mother was alive. My hope was rekindled. But the mystery of my parents' disappearance only deepened, leaving me with more questions than ever before. We were discussing my progress in school and various aspects of my life, and hearing her voice stirred up a whirlwind of emotions within me. I couldn't contain my feelings, and before I could stop myself, I called out to her. The moment my voice reached the other end, silence fell. Frantically, I screamed and cried into the phone, hoping that if I shook it hard enough, her voice would echo through the receiver. Grandma emerged from the kitchen, her face a mix of concern and frustration, instructing me to go to my room. I unleashed my anger on her, demanding to know why she had hidden my mother from me and why she refused to divulge any information. Despite my pleas, Grandma remained steadfast in her silence, leaving me to accept the painful reality that my parents had essentially abandoned me. Shortly after that heartbreaking phone call, my grandparents sent me to live with a distant aunt, a 5-hour drive away from their farm. I often wondered why my parents had chosen to send me away, but I never received a satisfactory answer. My aunt, my mother's cousin, turned out to be a compassionate and understanding soul. She embraced me with open arms, and when I questioned her about my parents, she admitted she didn't have any answers. Her sincerity was palpable, and I chose to believe her. From the moment I moved in with my aunt at the age of 13, she became my rock. Whenever I struggled with my emotions, she was there to guide me, offering solace and understanding. She even encouraged me to seek therapy, a decision that initially left me hesitant but eventually proved immensely beneficial. My aunt validated my feelings, something my grandparents had never done, and provided the support I desperately needed. By the time I finished high school, my aunt had become the most significant person in my life, filling the void left by my absent parents. She supported me through my journey to becoming a veterinary doctor, following in her footsteps. At 21, I approached her with adoption papers, wanting her to be my legal parent. With her wholehearted agreement, I finally found the stability and love I had craved for so long. Having completed my degree, I now work as an intern in a hospital, striving to gain valuable experience. My career path has led me to move into a new apartment, away from the familiarity of my aunt's home. Despite the physical distance, I still visit her whenever I can. 2 days ago, on my day off, I was relaxing at home when the doorbell rang. Anticipating a delivery, I opened the door only to find my estranged family standing there, my mom, dad, and youngest brother. They appeared both unfamiliar and yet hauntingly recognizable. Stunned into silence, I couldn't find the words to express my emotions. They handed me an envelope containing a letter from my grandparents. According to the letter, I had allegedly run away from their home, refusing to maintain contact, causing them immense emotional distress. They demanded I pay for my brother's education, leveraging my newfound status as a doctor, threatening legal action if I refused. The situation made no sense to me. How could I be blamed for running away when I had been sent away by my grandparents? Why should I be financially responsible for my brother's education when I had no say in the matter? The demands felt unjust, leaving me bewildered and conflicted about how to respond. Why should I care about people who abandoned me for 16 years? With a head full of unanswered questions, I staunchly refused to help them, insisting they leave my premises. When they persisted, I called the cops. They claimed to be my parents, but I stood my ground, stating that legally, I was my aunt's daughter and provided her name. The authorities contacted her, and she confirmed my status, resulting in my family receiving a warning about trespassing and harassment. Since then, I've been bombarded with hurtful messages on social media from accounts owned by my family, labeling me as heartless. I confided in my aunt about everything, and although she understood my actions, she questioned whether I did the right thing. In the midst of this turmoil, my parents showed up at my workplace, causing a scene. Hospital security intervened, calling the police and escorting them off the premises. I couldn't fathom why my family, absent for so long, suddenly wanted to be a part of my life. The emotional toll weighed heavily on me. My therapist suggested talking to them, but I resisted. Eventually, I agreed to meet them in the presence of my aunt. Their explanation was disheartening. They sent me to my grandparents due to financial struggles, thinking it would be easier with one less mouth to feed. When circumstances improved, they couldn't afford to bring me back. Now, with their savings depleted, they wanted me to support them and pay for my brother's needs. They admitted fabricating the threat of legal action, hoping to guilt me into compliance. Each word shattered my heart, but I stood firm. I reminded them of my legal detachment and threatened legal action if they ever bothered me again at home or work. Despite their pleas for forgiveness, I walked away, my heart hardened against them. My therapist suggested I might be struggling to empathize, but the truth was, I felt nothing for them. If I could, I'd erase them from my memory without a second thought. Since my last update, my family has ceased reaching out to me. On the other hand, I have completed my internship, and I am considering another residency program before I sit for the NAVLE. I hold on to hope that my future will be all right. Sometimes I won't deny it. I wish I had a better relationship with my parents. Nevertheless, I am content with having my aunt as my sole parent. She proves to be a far superior mother than the other one I know. They abandoned you, lied to you, and left you with your grandparents. You owe them nothing. You are only giving them what they gave you. They'd abandoned you. I don't understand why they thought you wouldn't do the same. My sister-in-law, a 26-year-old woman, and I, a 29-year-old woman, have always had a complicated relationship. I thought she had matured enough to leave me alone, but apparently she couldn't resist causing drama. Our issues started when I began dating my husband. We met while he was helping her move. We struck up a conversation at a local bar and have been together ever since. Despite our happiness, my sister-in-law never liked me. She once told me her brother never gets serious with anyone, so I shouldn't get my hopes up. I mentally prepared for heartbreak, even though I really liked her brother. However, 6 years later, we are still going strong, and he is undoubtedly my favorite person in the world. The rest of his family, including my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and every other family member I've met, have been nothing but nice to me. So it baffles me why my sister-in-law seems to hate me so much. 2 years ago, during our wedding, she created a huge fuss. I didn't want her as my bridesmaid due to her consistent cold and condescending behavior towards me. However, she threw a tantrum and tried to emotionally manipulate my husband against me. To avoid more drama, I made her a bridesmaid. Yet she showed up in a white floral dress, angering everyone. My in-laws forced her to change, threatening to exclude her from family events if she didn't comply. She apologized afterward, and I thought she had moved past her immature behavior. Clearly, I was wrong. Things took a turn when I found out I was pregnant with my first child. I was thrilled and couldn't wait to share the news. While everyone else was excited, my sister-in-law's behavior was different. She didn't seem happy for us and consistently managed to make the moment about herself. During a family event, we announced our pregnancy, and she quickly diverted the conversation to her own experiences as a single mother, emphasizing how difficult it was for her to go through pregnancy alone and suggesting that I was lucky. As my due date approached, my sister-in-law offered to host a baby shower for me. Initially, I was grateful and excited about the celebration with my family and friends. However, my excitement turned to suspicion when she insisted on hosting the event at a venue 12,000 miles away from where we lived. She claimed it was a surprise, set up at a luxurious venue owned by her friend, and we wouldn't have to pay for anything. Despite her explanation, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. When I shared my concerns with my husband, he assured me that his sister was simply trying to do something special for us and that I might be overthinking it. He even rescheduled vital meetings so we could attend the supposed baby shower. We flew there with my parents, as my in-laws couldn't attend due to being out of the country. Upon arriving at the location, a lavish resort, I immediately sensed something was wrong. The decorations were pink and blue, but there were unfamiliar faces present. To my shock, there was another pregnant couple, and the woman was wearing the same white dress given to me by my sister-in-law. It became apparent that my sister-in-law had tricked us into attending her friend's baby shower, making me feel humiliated and overshadowed. Feeling utterly embarrassed and upset, I left the party in tears once I understood the situation. My husband confronted his sister, leading to her making excuses and attempting to deflect blame. He informed his parents, who were equally shocked and angry. In response to her behavior, they decided to cut her off financially. They had been supporting her financially for years, but after her actions, they withdrew their financial aid and decided she should fend for herself. They even warned her not to show up until she learned to act responsibly. Although my sister-in-law blames me for her misfortune, I maintain that I didn't ask my in-laws to take any action. This was entirely her own doing. While she tries to manipulate me, portraying herself as a single mom, I can't help but believe she deserves the consequences of her actions. Despite her attempts to guilt-trip me, I stand firm in my belief that she brought this upon herself. My sister-in-law is by no means destitute. She won't be left penniless with her son due to this situation. She just needs to adjust her lifestyle and figure out how to manage her boutique independently. Moreover, if my in-laws genuinely believed their grandchild was in jeopardy, they would step in. I'm confident they won't hold a grudge for long. Although they might not fund her boutique, they'll likely assist her with general expenses once she acknowledges her error and apologizes to me, rather than attacking me for her perceived misfortunes. My husband firmly stands by my side, assuring me that I never have to forgive my sister-in-law or engage with her again. He apologized for not intervening earlier and taking stronger measures to keep her away from me. My kind mother-in-law is planning a genuine baby shower for me, promising a delightful celebration where I can focus on the joy of our upcoming child, forgetting about my sister-in-law's antics. However, my sister-in-law crashed my baby shower despite being uninvited. On the day of the event, everything seemed perfect. My mother-in-law had beautifully decorated her backyard, and delicious food and drinks were served. We were happily chatting with our friends and family, opening gifts people had generously brought for us. But when my sister-in-law arrived, having found out about the party through social media, she exploded into a furious tirade. She created a scene, shouting that her parents didn't financially support her, but had no issue throwing a lavish party for me, someone she deemed unworthy of such attention. At that point, my mother-in-law had had enough. She promptly escorted my sister-in-law out of the garden, apologizing to the guests for the disturbance. After the event, my in-laws apologized to me multiple times, suggesting I obtain a restraining order against my sister-in-law. While I hesitate to take such drastic measures, we have decided to keep all news about the baby off social media to prevent her from stalking us. The whole situation is insane, and it baffles me how jealous and immature my sister-in-law can be. She managed to ruin not just one but two baby showers with her antics. I must add that my in-laws initially weren't supportive during her pregnancy because she was having a child out of wedlock, which clashed with their traditional beliefs. They did come around after the baby was born, but it appears my sister-in-law still harbors resentment. I haven't heard from her since the baby shower, and my in-laws have expressed their intention to cut her off permanently due to her embarrassing behavior in front of so many people. Frankly, I've reached a point where I don't care anymore. I just want this ordeal to be over so I can focus on myself and my baby. It's astonishing how entitled and childish she can be, sabotaging such a beautiful event. She disrespected not only me but also her friend, showcasing her true colors as a deeply flawed and immature individual. I don't intend to waste another thought on her.
I never planned to keep my success a secret. Life just worked out that way. Growing up in Singapore, my parents taught me the value of hard work and education. Emily, knowledge is the one thing nobody can take from you, my father would say as he drove his taxi late into the night to fund my studies. My mother worked 2 jobs, and together they made sure I had everything I needed to excel. Their sacrifice paid off. I graduated top of my class in finance and landed a position at one of Asia's largest banks. By 28, I was the youngest division head in the bank's history, managing over $50 billion in corporate loans. But few knew this side of me. I met James at my friend's small cafe where I loved to work on weekends, helping out just to stay grounded. He walked in one rainy morning, ordered a latte, and smiled when I drew a little heart in the foam. "This is the best coffee I've had in months," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "The secret is making it with care," I replied, wiping down the counter. He came back every weekend after that. We talked about everything: his work as an architect, his dreams of designing sustainable buildings, his close relationship with his family. I found myself looking forward to our conversations, enjoying how he saw me for who I was, not what I owned. When he finally asked me out, I said yes without hesitation. Our first date was at a humble hawker center, sharing plates of char kway teow and laughing about nothing in particular. I fell in love with his kindness, his integrity, and how he treated everyone with respect, regardless of their status. "My family's a bit traditional," he warned me before our first dinner with them. "They can be judgmental about status and career." "Don't worry," I assured him, "I can handle it." I wasn't prepared for Richard Chen, James's father. A self-made real estate tycoon, he dominated every room he entered. His wife, Helen, was equally intimidating in her designer clothes and perfectly coiffed hair. James's sister, Victoria, took after their mother, down to her dismissive glance when I mentioned working at a cafe. "A cafe?" Richard's voice boomed across the dinner table. "James, I thought you said she went to university." "She did, Dad. Emily has a degree in—" Clearly not putting it to good use, Richard interrupted. "In this family, we believe in ambition. Excellence. Not serving coffee." I saw James's face redden, but he stayed silent. Helen touched her pearl necklace, a habit I learned meant she was about to deliver a carefully crafted insult. "Dear, perhaps you could help Emily find a more suitable position. The cleaning company we use is always hiring." Victoria snickered. "At least she'd have health insurance." I maintained my composure, years of high-stakes negotiations serving me well. "I enjoy my current work, but thank you for your concern." The rest of dinner passed in a blur of subtle digs and patronizing advice. James apologized profusely on the drive home. "They'll come around," he promised. "They just need time to know you." But they didn't. Over the next year, as James and I grew closer, his family's disdain only intensified. Every family gathering became an exercise in endurance. Richard never missed an opportunity to remind everyone of my humble station. Helen orchestrated seating arrangements to keep me far from important guests. Victoria openly suggested James find someone more appropriate. When James proposed, their reaction was predictable. "A cafe worker," Richard exploded. "Have you lost your mind?" "Dad, I love her." James stood firm. "Love won't maintain our family standing," Richard shot back. "If you marry her, don't expect any support from me." But James chose me. We had a small, beautiful wedding, without his family present. Months passed. I continued my weekend cafe shifts, finding peace in the simple work while managing billion-dollar deals during the week. James respected my choice to keep my career private, understanding my need to be loved for myself, not my position. Then came the annual Chen family reunion. "We have to go," James insisted. "They're still family." I agreed, hoping time had softened their hearts. I was wrong. The reunion was held at Richard's mansion, a sprawling estate that screamed old money. The moment we arrived, I felt the familiar weight of judgmental stares. "Oh, the cafe girl still hasn't found a real job." Victoria's voice carried across the garden. How persistent. Richard gathered everyone for his annual family address, champagne flowing freely as he boasted about the family's achievements. Then he spotted us. "Ah, James, come, tell everyone about your new project." His eyes slid past me. "And your wife can serve drinks. It's what she's good at, yes." Laughter rippled through the crowd. James opened his mouth to protest, but before he could speak, a commotion erupted near the house. Richard's secretary came running out, face pale. "Mr. Chen, urgent call from the bank." "Not now," Richard waved her off. "We're celebrating." "Sir, it's about the emergency loans." "They're denied." Richard's smile faltered. "Impossible. I spoke with the division head yesterday." "No, sir. The new CEO is reviewing all major loans personally. They're requesting a meeting tomorrow." I felt my phone vibrate, my own secretary calling. I knew what this was about. Richard's company had been flagged for suspicious accounting, and as CEO of the corporate banking division, I had ordered a complete audit. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. "Excuse me," I said quietly, stepping away from the crowd to take my call. "Ma'am," my secretary whispered, "Chen Development's financials are worse than we thought. The audit shows systematic misrepresentation of assets." "Send me the files," I replied. "I'll review them tonight." When I returned, Richard was in full crisis mode. His face had lost its usual smugness, replaced by barely concealed panic. He was barking orders into his phone while Helen hovered nearby, wringing her perfectly manicured hands. Victoria sidled up to me, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Looks like Daddy's company is having issues. Not that you understand business matters. More champagne?" I smiled politely. "No, thank you. But I do have a question. How's your position at your father's company?" She preened. "I'm Executive Vice President of Operations." "Interesting. And what exactly do you do?" Her smile faltered. "I oversee things. Important things. Like the shell companies in the Cayman Islands." Victoria's glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Several heads turned our way. "I don't know what you're talking about," she hissed. "The ones hiding your father's debt? Or perhaps the inflated property valuations?" Before she could respond, Richard's voice boomed across the garden. "Everyone, party's over. Family emergency." As guests began to leave, Richard pulled James aside. "Son, I need your help. The bank, they're being unreasonable. Your architecture firm has good relationships with other banks, yes." James looked uncomfortable. "Dad, we're just a small firm. We don't handle those kinds of loans." "Useless," Richard exploded. "Just like your choice in wife. If I lose this company, it's on your head for bringing bad luck into this family." That was enough. I stepped forward, my phone in hand. "Mr. Chen, I believe we have a meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. He barely glanced at me. "This doesn't concern you, coffee girl." "Actually, it does." I opened my banking app, displaying my executive profile. "I'm the CEO you'll be meeting." The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and horror. Helen's pearl necklace clattered to the ground. Victoria looked like she might faint. "That's impossible," Richard stammered. "Emily Chen, CEO of Corporate Banking Division, Singapore United Bank," I stated calmly. "Your loan applications crossed my desk last week. The irregularities were concerning." James stared at me, mouth agape. "Emily? All this time?" "I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I own." I explained softly. "You gave me that gift. Your family, not so much." Richard suddenly straightened, his businessman instincts kicking in. "Well, this is wonderful news. We're all family here. Surely we can work something out." "Family?" I echoed. Like when you called me a gold digger at our wedding reception, or when you told your business associates that James married beneath his station. Helen stepped forward, arms outstretched. Darling, we were just protecting our son. Surely you understand. I understand perfectly. You judged me, humiliated me, and treated me like dirt because you thought I was beneath you. Now you want my help? Victoria attempted damage control. Emily, sweetie, we were just teasing. It was all in good fun. I turned to James. Did you know about your sister's role in the company? He shook his head. She said she was handling operations. She's been helping your father hide debt and inflate assets. The audit shows years of financial manipulation. Richard's face turned purple. Now see here. You can't just. I can and I will, I interrupted. Tomorrow's meeting isn't about loans. It's about fraud investigation. The color drained from his face. You wouldn't dare. We're family. Family? I laughed softly. Let me share some wisdom from my father, the taxi driver you mocked at my wedding. He taught me that true family supports you, believes in you, and loves you regardless of your status. You've done none of those things. I took James's hand. The authorities will be contacting you tomorrow. I suggest you get your lawyers ready. As we turned to leave, Helen called out desperately. Wait, what about Victoria? She was just following orders. I paused at the door. Actions have consequences, Helen. Victoria chose to participate in fraud. She'll face the same investigation as everyone else. The drive home was silent. Finally, James spoke. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have treated me differently if you knew? He thought for a moment. No, I fell in love with you, not your job. That's why I fell in love with you too. I squeezed his hand. I'm sorry for keeping this from you. I just needed to know our love was real. What happens now? I sighed. Your father's company will be investigated. With the evidence we have, there will likely be criminal charges. Victoria too, if she's implicated. And us. That depends. Can you handle being married to a woman who makes more than your entire family combined? James laughed, the tension breaking. I think I'll manage, but no more secrets. No more secrets, I promised. The next morning, the Chen family empire began to crumble. Richard arrived at my office precisely at 9 a.m., flanked by his lawyers. Gone was the arrogant tycoon. In his place sat a man who finally realized he wasn't the most powerful person in the room. The audit revealed systematic fraud spanning 5 years, I stated, sliding the report across my desk. Falsified valuations, hidden debts, shell companies. It's all here. We can explain, his lawyer began. No need. The evidence has been forwarded to the authorities. Richard leaned forward. Emily, please, think about what this will do to the family name. Like you thought about my reputation when you told everyone I was a gold digger? Before he could respond, my secretary interrupted. Ma'am, the police are here. What followed was a media circus. Chen Development CEO arrested for fraud splashed across headlines. Victoria was taken into custody next, her designer handbag clutched to her chest as officers led her away. Helen had a very public breakdown at the country club. James stood by me through it all, though I knew it pained him to see his family fall apart. They did this to themselves, he said one evening as we watched the news coverage. You just exposed the truth. Weeks turned into months. The investigation uncovered more than even I had suspected. Richard had been running a complex scheme, using inflated property valuations to secure loans, then channeling the money through shell companies. Victoria had helped coordinate the fraud, her executive position nothing more than a front. The trial was swift. Richard and Victoria were both sentenced to prison. 8 years for him, 5 for her. Helen was spared criminal charges but lost everything in the asset forfeitures. One day, as autumn painted Singapore's gardens in golden hues, Helen appeared at my office. I know I have no right to be here, she began, her designer clothes replaced by simple cotton. But I need to say something. I gestured for her to continue. I was wrong about you. So terribly wrong. Tears filled her eyes. We judged you because we thought wealth and status were everything. Now I'm alone, living in a small apartment, working as a sales clerk, and I finally understand. Understand what? That character matters more than cash. You were kind to us even when we were cruel. You could have destroyed us completely, but you let the law take its course. That's real class. I studied her face, seeing genuine remorse for the first time. What do you want, Helen? A chance. Not to be close. I know I don't deserve that. But to apologize to you and James. To try to be better. 6 months later, we hosted a small dinner party. Helen came bringing homemade dumplings, a skill she'd learned in her new life. She was different now, humbler, more genuine. James was healing too, visiting his father and sister in prison, working through years of family dysfunction. As for me, I kept my weekend shifts at the cafe. Not because I needed to hide anymore, but because I loved the simplicity of making someone's day better with a perfect cup of coffee. One morning, a young woman came in, looking defeated. "Rough day?" I asked, drawing a heart in her latte foam. "My boyfriend's parents think I'm not good enough," she sighed. "Wrong background, wrong job." I smiled, remembering where my own journey began. Let me tell you a story about family, pride, and what really matters in the end. Life has a way of teaching us its most important lessons. Sometimes it takes losing everything to understand what truly matters. Richard and Victoria learned this in prison. Helen learned it through humility, and I learned that being true to yourself is worth more than all the wealth in the world. James and I are expecting our first child now. We've decided to name her Grace, a reminder that sometimes the hardest situations deserve a measure of mercy. Helen is excited to be a grandmother, and even Richard, through his prison letters, seems to be reflecting on what kind of legacy he really wants to leave. The cafe still stands, a humble reminder of where our story began. Sometimes customers recognize me, the banking CEO who serves coffee on weekends. They often ask why I still do it. My answer is simple. Every cup of coffee is a chance to make someone's day better, and at the end of our lives, isn't that what matters most? They usually smile, understanding or not. But I know my truth. Success isn't about power or revenge or even proving others wrong. It's about staying true to yourself, showing kindness even when it's not deserved, and remembering that everyone, even those who hurt us, deserves a chance at redemption. As I write this, I'm sitting in the cafe, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of hope. James will join me soon, as he does every weekend. Helen might stop by with her dumplings. Life isn't perfect, but it's real and rich with lessons learned. And sometimes, when I'm making coffee or reviewing billion-dollar deals, I think about my father's words. Knowledge is the one thing nobody can take from you. He was right, but he missed something important: integrity, compassion, and the courage to be yourself. Those are things nobody can take either.
Emily, is Grandpa behaving himself? Well, sort of. He injured his leg. Old people can be such a nuisance. I wish they'd think about those of us who have to take care of them. Patricia, that's not a nice way to say it. It's fine. He's already declining quite a bit. I can't handle the fuss of old people, but you're used to it, so you'll be fine. The other day, my husband's grandfather, Michael, fell in a garden and injured his leg. It's not a serious injury, but he's already 82 years old. Because of his age, we're having him rest in bed just to be safe so it doesn't get worse. My mother-in-law won't even go near him, let alone take care of him. I'm Emily, 30 years old. I married 3 years ago and live with my husband Daniel's family. My husband was my boss at the company where I worked, a company founded by his grandfather. When I joined 8 years ago, my father-in-law was already the president and my grandfather-in-law was the chairman. But back then, the grandfather was still handling all the important tasks and responsibilities of the company. 2 years ago, when Grandpa turned 80, he remained chairman but handed over most of the public duties to my father-in-law. Michael, you've worked hard all this time. Now, leave the company matters to Christopher and take it easy, my mother-in-law said with a smile, but her words sounded sarcastic to me. Grandfather-in-law is a bit stubborn but a fair and kind person with a good reputation. In contrast, my father-in-law seems somewhat immature, never expressing his opinions clearly and utterly unreliable compared to Grandpa. And he always does whatever my mother-in-law says. My grandmother-in-law has already passed away, and I never met her. My husband and I started dating when we worked together on the same product planning team 3 years after I joined the company. My husband, energetically leading the team, seemed reliable to me, though a bit self-righteous. Maybe I felt that way because I lost my father early and grew up with just my mother. My mother also passed away from illness 2 years ago, and now I have no family other than my in-laws. Shortly after I got married, my mother fell ill and needed care, so I quit my job to take care of her. The fact that my husband's family didn't object was probably due to a single comment from Grandpa. It's only natural to take care of the mother who raised you alone. Don't worry and take good care of her. Thanks to that, I was able to be by my mother's side every day for a year without financial worries until she passed away. My mother-in-law seemed a bit dissatisfied, but I was truly grateful. However, since Grandpa handed over the company to my father-in-law, everyone's attitudes towards him have gradually changed. They no longer listen to his opinions as much, and I can't shake the feeling that they're treating him carelessly. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but watching my mother-in-law and husband's behavior, I can't help but feel that way. My father-in-law's attitude is non-committal, but it feels like he's ignoring Grandpa as if he's no longer needed since he's practically retired. Watching my in-laws' behavior, I feel somewhat angry. Hey, don't you think your attitude, Patricia, and yours too, is a bit cold towards Grandpa? So what's the big deal? Grandpa tries to talk to you and you barely respond. You don't even try to help them. Like I have time to deal with old people. You can take care of Grandpa. You're the one with the free time. You don't have to talk like that. Quiet, I'm tired from work. Don't nag me about unnecessary things. This is how it goes no matter. They won't listen to me. My grandfather-in-law doesn't say anything to his family about this. Now I'm the only one who talks to my grandfather-in-law at home. Grandpa, the weather is nice today. Shall we go for a little walk outside? Your leg seems to be healing well, and I think it will be good rehabilitation. Thank you. Let's go out for a bit then. The two of us went to the park, where there were several families with children playing around. My grandfather-in-law looked at the scene with joy. Christopher and Daniel enjoyed times like that too. Grandpa, I was busy with work and couldn't take care of the children much. Maybe that's why I couldn't raise Christopher and Daniel properly, my grandfather-in-law said with a slightly sad face, almost like he was talking to himself. Christopher is my father-in-law, and Daniel is my husband. I think about how everyone can be kinder to my grandfather-in-law, but I can't come up with a good idea. But then my in-laws suggested building a house for my grandfather-in-law. This house is over 50 years old, right? The layout is bad, it's hard to use. But instead of spending money on repairs, it would be better to build a new house in a more convenient location. A new house? Michael is getting older, and it's good that he only got injured last time, but we never know what will happen. So let's make the house barrier-free so we won't have trouble if care is needed. I see. We can even put Michael's room in the middle so everyone can take care of him easily. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Right, so it's settled then. And Michael, out the costs. If it's a house for all of us, I'll take care of it. Talk to Mr. Jones about the money. Typical Michael, thank you. We appreciate it, my mother-in-law smiled happily. It seems to me that they only flatter him when they want money. But if everyone takes care of my grandfather-in-law after moving to the new house, I thought there could be nothing better. Mr. Jones is the company's in-house counsel and also manages my grandfather-in-law's personal assets. My grandfather-in-law liked his character and made him in-house counsel, and it's been nearly 30 years. He is 58 now and the person my grandfather-in-law trusts the most. I've met him several times and he seems to be a very honest person. He always cares about my grandfather-in-law's health, and sometimes I think he's more like a son than his real sons. Having such people around my grandfather-in-law makes me feel a little relieved. I wasn't informed about the details of the house being built, but my mother-in-law seemed very cheerful, and the three of them were looking at interior design magazines and discussing various things, so it seemed to be going smoothly. Then something unexpected happened. It was revealed that my grandfather-in-law had a debt of $1,820,000. Wait, what's this about $1,820,000? I exclaimed. My grandfather-in-law had become a co-signer for a loan for a friend's company, but that company was in trouble, and a debt had become my grandfather-in-law's responsibility. Wait, they're not going to take the house. It's under construction, are they? Since the contract has already been completed, and as Patricia said, it's in the president's name, so it's fine, my mother-in-law seemed relieved at those words. Oh, thank goodness. I'm glad we did it my way. Listening to that conversation, I learned for the first time that the house was in my father-in-law's name. Even though my grandfather-in-law had paid for it, putting it in my father-in-law's name seemed just like something my mother-in-law would do. I also wondered why they didn't think of giving up the house to help repay the debt. Hey, this debt is Michael's fault, and it has nothing to do with us or the company, right? Well, it was signed in Michael's name. Oh good, then there's no problem. I couldn't understand what was good about it, but since my grandfather-in-law didn't say anything during that conversation, I didn't intervene either. After all, it's not an amount I could handle. A few days later, my grandfather-in-law's behavior began to change gradually. Grandpa, what would you like to eat for lunch? Who are you calling Grandpa? I'm only 50. You have no right to call me that. Huh? Sorry, Emily, right? I was lost in thought. At first, I thought he was just deep in thought, and when it happened repeatedly, I began to feel uneasy. Patricia, what are you doing? Where's my meal? Grandpa, I'm Emily. Patricia is your daughter-in-law. You ate your meal earlier. Didn't eat? Are you trying to starve me? I wondered if my grandfather-in-law's condition was triggered by the $1,820,000 debt, and seeing that none of his family members were trying to help him might have been a double shock. I tried to persuade my grandfather-in-law to go to the hospital, but he adamantly refused. He might not want to admit that he could have dementia. I didn't want to force him, but I felt helpless on my own. I consulted my husband, but he simply brushed it off, saying it had nothing to do with him. My mother-in-law wasn't any help either, so I turned to my father-in-law as the only option. Yeah, I heard from Patricia, Daniel. They think it might be dementia. Can you go to the hospital with us? I asked him. But it's not that bad yet, right? If we go to the hospital, others will find out my father has dementia, he responded. There are good medications now that can slow the progression. Well, there's no need to rush. Let's watch him a little longer. Emily is here, so they'll be fine, right? I couldn't help but feel frustrated by their lack of concern. I couldn't depend on them. Grandpa, let's go to the hospital. Let's get you properly examined, I urged. Who are you? Where are you planning to take me? You're up to no good, he retorted. I felt tears welling up, seeing how stubborn my once kind grandfather-in-law had become. But my mother-in-law just laughed, amused. Even if he was the chairman, it's over for him now. But now everything, even the company, is all Christopher's, she remarked casually.
Patricia, Grandpa isn't completely unaware. He's listening to everything. He'll forget everything soon. He'll start wandering, dribbling. Just thinking about it gives me chills. He's nothing but a nuisance now, I protested. How can you say that? Grandpa has worked hard for the family all of his life. My mother-in-law's words made me both angry and sad. But my grandfather-in-law just smiled. See, this old man doesn't understand anything, she added, laughing. Patricia, I was furious at my mother-in-law's callousness. But soon the new house would be ready. Perhaps things might change once we move there. Since it's a house that Grandpa built, the family might show some gratitude and be kind to him. I couldn't completely abandon that faint hope. And 2 months later, the house was finally built. For days, I had been compelled to pack my in-laws' and husband's belongings, while my father-in-law's and my own items remained mostly untouched. Even when I attempted to organize my things, my in-laws and husband kept assigning me tasks, preventing any progress. However, I reasoned it would be okay to relocate the smaller items later since this house wasn't disappearing. On moving day, after transferring most of the belongings, I went to call my father-in-law, but my husband intercepted me. Ah, you and Grandpa can stay here, he announced. What? You can stay in his house. We don't need any extra baggage in the new house. In other words, you and Grandpa will live here from now on, and I'll give you Grandpa's debt too. Well, you can at least be a housekeeper. Hey, let's go. Yeah, I'm coming. Good luck with all the debt repayment and live-in care. My in-laws cheerfully departed, leaving me stunned. For a while, I couldn't comprehend what had just occurred. Were we abandoned, not just me, but also my grandfather-in-law, only they would reside in the new house? It took me some time to grasp because it was beyond my imagination that someone could be so cruel. How should I explain this to my grandfather-in-law? Slowly, I made my way back to the rear room. I didn't mind caring for my grandfather-in-law at all. That was my intention from the start. As I timidly prepared to call out to him, noticing his back facing me, he seemed to sense my presence and turned around before I could speak. Have they gone already? His expression as he uttered those words looked entirely different from what it had been just months ago. To be honest, he seemed like a different person. I wondered if a new symptom had emerged, but the next moment my grandfather-in-law smiled, and his subsequent words caught me off guard. As I was talking to my grandfather-in-law, Mr. Jones came. Chairman, have you finished getting rid of the unnecessary staff? Yes, it's all done. Let's go, shall we? Where are we going? Of course, to the new house. I left the house where I had been residing, guided by my grandfather-in-law, without fully understanding what was unfolding. The following month, my mother-in-law and husband bombarded me with countless calls. My grandfather-in-law declared he wouldn't entertain their calls anymore, but I answered my husband's call due to the looming divorce. "Hey, Emily, is Grandpa with you? When I went to the old house, it was up for sale. It's not worth $1,820,000, so you can't repay the debt. Is that why you did that?" My husband interrogated. "What do you mean? Put Grandpa on." "Dad said he can't get in touch at all. That forgetful old man has done something outrageous." I knew what he was referring to, but I wanted to hear my husband's side of the story. Grandpa sold the company's stocks to the executive director. Thanks to that, the executive director became the largest shareholder, and a shareholders' meeting and board meeting were held, resulting in Dad being dismissed as president. But the executive director is well liked, and maybe Grandpa thought it was better to hand over the company to him. The executive director must have deceived the senile old man into selling the stocks. This is invalid. You seem to be misunderstanding something, but Grandpa doesn't have dementia. If anything, he seems more coherent than before. What? Until that moving day, I genuinely believed that my grandfather-in-law had dementia. It appears that my grandfather-in-law harbored suspicions from the moment my mother-in-law mentioned building a house to live with him, so he devised a plan. He feigned dementia to observe how my in-laws and husband would react. As anticipated, they revealed their true colors, one after another. In the end, they left my grandfather-in-law and me behind. I struggled to contain my laughter because everything unfolded exactly as I had expected. My grandfather-in-law then said, I found myself surprised, relieved, and slightly conflicted. To deceive the enemy, you must first deceive your allies, my grandfather-in-law chuckled. It seemed he had been receiving regular updates on the company from the executive director and Mr. Jones. With my grandfather-in-law gone, my father-in-law and husband acted as they pleased, self-righteous, and completely ignoring the opinions of the employees, often entertaining at the company's expense. Eventually, my grandfather-in-law handed over the company to my father-in-law, but he harbored concerns about the future, leading him to take decisive action. In the end, he decided he couldn't entrust it to his son and left it to the executive director. I explained. What about the $1,820,000 debt? My husband inquired. That's gone now, I replied. Indeed, my grandfather-in-law had been a guarantor for a friend's dad, but he had personal assets exceeding that amount. However, I deliberately omitted this information to avoid my mother-in-law and husband targeting those assets. The friend was the son of a benefactor who had helped my father-in-law when he was young. Moreover, the countryside land owned by the son was going to be developed into a resort, allowing him to sell it at a high price. I explained further. You're kidding, my husband exclaimed. More importantly, are you guys okay? I asked, concerned. We're not okay. Both my father and I were denounced by the company. What should we do now? My husband lamented. Well, there's also the mortgage on the house, I revealed. What? What do you mean, the mortgage on the house? My husband was taken aback. Haven't you realized it yet? The house money should have all been paid by Grandpa, I clarified. Christopher signed without checking everything. It shows he really didn't have the qualities of a president, I added. You're kidding, my husband sighed. As a consequence, my parents-in-law lost the house they had built because they couldn't pay the mortgage. Now they reside in an old apartment over 50 years old, struggling to repay the unpaid loan. Despite their alternating attempts to contact me, suggesting we all live together, it was impossible now. My grandfather-in-law retired from his chairman position and bought an old house in the countryside. Emily, you can go and live wherever you like freely. You don't have to worry about living expenses, my grandfather-in-law assured me. But I chose to be with him. If I'm not in the way, please let me be with you, I expressed, tears welling up in my eyes. My grandfather-in-law's eyes welled up too. Thanks to Mr. Jones, the divorce was finalized and procedures were taken to exclude my former father-in-law and former husband from inheritance. I became my grandfather-in-law's adopted daughter. If anything happens to him, I intend to take care of him until the end. Now, the two of us enjoy working in the fields together. Dad, look at this radish, it's big, I exclaimed as warm moments flowed in the pouring sunlight. I wish for these days to continue, even just one day longer.